Okay, so kind of the culmination problem of what we've been working for in section 1.4 and why we reviewed all this stuff with functions. This formula is something called the difference quotient, and it's something that's really kind of at the core of calculus. What it's asking us to do is take a function, we'll take this one as an example, f of x, in this case x squared minus 5x plus 2. And it's asking us to take that function and substitute it into this formula. And if you look at what's happening here, in the numerator of this fraction we've got f of x plus, and that's red, delta x. So we're composing, we're putting something into f right here. Then we subtract the original function, f of x, and divide the whole thing by delta x. Okay, now you're going to see this formula in a few sections again, so you'll know why we do it. But basically it's just an algebra problem. It's a problem manipulating this function. Okay. So what do we have to do? Well, they say construct and simplify the difference quotient. Okay, or evaluate the difference quotient. So we've got to take our particular function and put it in here. Okay, so it's usually a little lengthy to write when you put something into this formula, so I'm going to give myself a big space here. In the denominator I've got this symbol delta x. And I've got to subtract two things here. Now this is the one that people always have a tough time with, but what I'm doing is I'm being asked to put x plus delta x into this function in place of x. So right here that's going to be x plus delta x squared minus 5 times x plus delta x, okay, plus 2. Okay, all I did is I took this function and I replaced the x with x plus delta x. Okay. Now from that I need to subtract the original function, and that's x squared minus 5x plus 2. Now notice I put some parentheses here because I want to indicate that I am subtracting the entire function f of x. Okay. Now that's half the battle, just writing this thing down, but of course there's a lot of simplifying that needs to be done. So I'll go ahead and bring it down here. As the next step I want to start combining terms, multiplying things out, and so forth. The first thing I need to do in this one is FOIL this. It's x plus delta x times x plus delta x. Now when you FOIL this, you're going to get x squared plus x times delta x plus another x times delta x. So that'll be 2x delta x. Okay. Sometimes we like to put parentheses around the delta x just to make it not look like a confusing mess. So 2 times x times delta x. Okay. And then finally delta x squared, the last two terms when we FOIL. Okay. Now I've got this, minus 5x minus 5 delta x. Okay. And then I think I can just barely fit this all in, plus 2. Okay. And then minus the original function, which I still have to do, but that's just minus x squared. That'll be plus 5x and minus 2. Okay. And that's all over delta x. Okay. Now, looks like a big mess, and it is, but at this point, what always happens with these difference quotients is that they simplify a lot. Okay. If you look at what we have here, I've got an x squared as my first term. But later on, I'm subtracting x squared in the numerator, so I can actually cancel those two things. Okay. Now, what else can I cancel? Well, I have a negative 5x, and here I have a positive 5x. So those two cancel. They add together to get 0. And finally, I have a 2 and a negative 2, which cancel. Okay, so at the very end, all I have is 2x times delta x, okay, minus 5 times delta x, plus delta x squared all over delta x. Okay. So a lot of canceling already, but if you look carefully, there is at least one factor of delta x in each of these. Okay. So I can actually cancel it with the delta x in the numerator. Okay. So just because of space concerns, I'm going to have to be careful how I do this, but since there's one delta x in each of these, I can cancel that factor of delta x with the one in the denominator. Now this was delta x squared, so if I factor out one of those and cancel with the denominator, then I still have one left over. So finally, at the very end, what I have is 2x minus 5 plus delta x, okay, which is surprisingly simple considering what we started with and what we ended up with in the middle here.